Hello all, welcome to another edition of Force and Will, and today we are doing a Halloween special. I'm going to cover the Zombies deck for you. So this deck has been out for a little while, and I've actually been having a lot of fun. And I was actually thinking I hadn't done a video guide for you guys for a while, and Halloween would come up, and I was like, oh my gosh, zombies. Perfect timing. What better way to bring in Halloween than to play a Zombies deck? So I'm going to just kind of break down the deck for you before we get into some matches. The deck has 20 lands total. It has 11 fetch lands, 4 Bloodstained Mires, 3 Marsh Flats, and 4 Verdant Catacombs. Obviously, you can mix and match these because every single one of the lands you're getting is going to be a swamp. So if you have more Marsh Flats or what is the other one? I don't remember. Uh, Deltas, you can use those as well. It has 6 dual lands, 3 Badlands, and 3 Scrublands, and 3 basic swamps, just to give us protection against wasteland decks, and just a nice combination of all the different colors that we have in our deck. So here are our token generators. The deck runs 4 Lingering Souls. This is just going to give us a bunch of 1/1 little weenies to put out on the board with flying. So flying actually wins quite a lot of games in Legacy. So if you can get some flyers out, it helps. Also 2 Bitter Blossoms. So just going to be putting in a 1/1 Flying Fairy at the beginning of your upkeep. You will lose 1 life every turn, so be wary of that. For Carrion Feeder, this guy is a baller, and he's kind of creepy and cool and ghoulish, and he's a zombie, so yeah, so he's awesome. So he's in the deck just so he can be a sacrifice outlet. He gets pretty big pretty fast if your opponent doesn't take care of him, and it kind of has really nice synergy with Blood Artist. So I'll go into more of that a little bit later. So basically you'll just, once you get Blood Artist out on the board, you can start sacrificing tokens to do the little extra damage at the very end. 3 Hull Schooler. This guy is just going to allow us to look at our opponent's hand, disrupt them a little bit, gives us a little, a 2/2 beater. Also has a nice interaction with Carrion Feeder. If you cast a Schooler and you sacrifice it to the feeder before it resolves, then the second ability activates before the first one, and you can permanently remove a card from the opponent's hand, which is really nice sometimes. You can win games that way. So just be aware of that. 3 Blood Artists. This guy really makes the deck crazy. Just because whenever a creature dies, you gain a life and your opponent loses a life. And with the Carrion Feeder, Bitter Blossom, Lingering Souls, and Goblin Bombardment, I mean, you can deal a lot of damage really quickly, and your opponents won't even know what happened. So run 3 of these. Some decks run 4, but I like 3. I like having the Tragic Clip in the main deck. 4 Gravecaller. This guy is just going to be, a nice 2/1 beater for 1. Can't block, but what's really nice is it has a lot of synergy with the Scholar and Carrion Feeder and other Gravecallers. If he's ever in your graveyard, you can recast him for 1, as long as you have another zombie out on the board, which is pretty crazy, especially when you start doing combos with Carrion Feeder or Bombardment and the Blood Artist. 4 Blood Goss, similar to the Gravecaller, my bad. Except for we'll use lands. So we have a lot of fetch lands. Like I said, we have 11, so more than half of our lands are going to be that, which allows us to bring the Blood Goss back, and it has a nice little interaction with Faithless Looting. I missed that. Lingering Souls also has a nice interaction with Faithless Looting if you need to cast that and play it, but we'll get there. Goblin Bombardment. Excuse me. So basically it allows us to sacrifice one of our creatures to deal 1 damage to target creature player, and you guys should know this by now. With Blood Artist on the board and all the tokens, it gets pretty crazy. You're doing 2 damage and getting a life every time you sacrifice a creature. We have 4 Faithless Looting. This card is crazy. It's just like Careful Study on steroids, basically. It's all amped up. Draw 2 cards and discard 2 cards. So we like to play this more early on or in the late game when we're trying to dig deeper into our library to find an answer or just pull ahead and win. Obviously, we're going to want to try to discard Blood Gas, or Gravecrawlers, or even Lingering Souls, depending on what we have in our hand. And it has flashback, so we can cast it again. We run 1 mainboard Tragic Clip. This is just going to be in case our opponent has a creature we can't take care of. Even an early Dark Confident or even some elves early on, we can play this, or a late game if they have something that's just crazy huge and they keep attacking and kill more creatures. You can cast Tragic Slip and give it -13, which is usually enough to kill most creatures, not every time. And then over here we have our Disruption. We have 4 Thoughtseize, obviously just going to be a good discard. Lose 2 life, so be wary of that as well. Both Thoughtseize and the Scrollers allow us to use Cabal Therapy more effectively, which will allow us to, if you cast Thoughtseize or Tideholder first, you'll be able to guarantee a target with Cabal Therapy, and then you won't have to waste a flashback in order to get the cards you want. So run 4 of both of those just to help give us early disruption. This deck's not super fast, but I mean it's capable of winning the first 5-4 turns. So that's basically the main deck. I mean it's straightforward and it's very simple to play. So let's go to our sideboard. We have 2 disenchants. I'm just going to bring this in against any deck that has artifacts or enchantments that are giving you problems. 3 Perish. This is great against a number of decks, especially with Tarmogoyf in the Legacy format. It's just crazy. Zoo, Maverick, Elves. I mean, you name it. Any deck that has green creatures that you need to deal with, sideboard and Perish. We also run 2 Go for the Throats. This is just going to give us extra creature removal and help us deal with some of the larger creatures. Obviously, it doesn't deal with all of them as they have to be non-artifact for Go for the Throat to work, but I mean, most of the time you're going to be dealing with non-artifact creatures, and it's in the sideboard, so you'll know whether or not your opponents have artifact creatures or not. 1 Dark Blast, again, just extra removal, has a nice dredge ability, so you can keep bringing it back. Gets rid of a lot of creatures in Legacy. Takes care of Delver really quick. Dark Confident, Elves. So just a number of decks. 3 Surgical Extraction. This is kind of a graveyard hate. It's kind of not meant just for graveyard hate. I mean, it's more rounded because I haven't been seeing a lot of graveyard hate. Otherwise, I'd be running like a Tormod's Crypt or a Relic, but it's just nice because you don't actually have to pay mana. You can just pay 2 life to activate Surgical Extraction and remove obviously the card from the opponent's hand. You can not their hand, their graveyard, and reveal their hand and just remove that card indefinitely from their deck, which can actually win games on its own as well. Also really good against like Reanimate. So if you wait for your opponent to try to reanimate one of their creatures, you can cast Surgical Extraction and remove the creature from the game, and they just lost a spell. We have 2 Dark Confidence. We're going to board this in against mostly control decks, but any deck that we feel like we need acceleration or that they don't pose a threat, like you won't want to board this in against a Zoo deck or a Burn deck just because we've taken so much damage. But if it's a control deck or a slower deck, feel free to board this in and just try to get an early advantage. And then we have 2 Python Needles. This is just going to help us combat a number of decks, like I said. I mean, I've talked about this card numerous times. It takes care of Planeswalkers, artifacts, wastelands, you name it. If there's a card with activated ability that you need to deal with, Siren Python Needle. And so that's the zombie deck. I apologize, guys. I haven't been able to do my videos as often as I like. I've been going to school full-time and working full-time, among other things, in my personal life. And I just haven't had time, so I thought, Halloween, perfect time to do this. Please make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, my Facebook and Twitter, and let's go into round 1. Thanks for watching.